Hey, what's up guys? Fish Tank Mike here. Today we're upstairs, going to be taking a look here at the aqua terrarium behind me and discuss a little bit about terrestrial moss in aquariums. Is it a good idea? What happens when you do it? And get ready to drop a comment below because I'm about to ask you for your opinion on something related. So here it is, guys, probably close to 6 months since we set this thing up, and as you can tell, the fern growth is crazy in this. If you've been following this tank since we set it up, you're definitely going to notice the difference. We also have some weeds that are just, volunteered themselves there right in the middle. You might be able to see the dinosaurs here from this angle. They are completely hidden, which is kind of cool because you have to, get in close to inspect it, but I don't really know that we can do anything to thin this out. I think we're just going to kind of leave it as a jungle. I'll give you guys a proper update on the whole terrarium here in just a second, but let's just jump right into the moss, okay? Because when we set this thing up, we had quite a bit of terrestrial moss. There might actually be a little bit of it still left. Most of it, though, has turned yellow and has died. The moss that was up out of the water was the same as the moss that ended up in the water, and it stayed green and looked like it was alive for quite a while. I want to say 2-3 months maybe, but after a while the stuff outside of the water started to turn yellow. It just wasn't going to make it, despite the fact that I was spraying this thing down and trying to keep these pieces of wood that had the moss on it as moist as possible. The stuff that was down submerged in the water was the stuff that I was most interested in, though, because I wanted to really see what would happen with that stuff. How long would it last? Would it stay alive forever? Would it be green forever, or was it just gonna die off? I think it's pretty obvious to say that this stuff is not living anymore. You can kind of see some of the remnants of it. You can see the morphology of some of these pieces, but it's definitely not anything close to what it was when we first set this thing up, or even like 2 months into it being submerged. So unfortunately, the short answer is no, this particular terrestrial moss did not end up surviving when it was submerged. The short answer is no. The terrestrial moss, in our case at least, did not survive when it was submerged. But I think there's a little bit more to it, and I think it warrants more of a proper experiment, or at least an attempt on one. So that's what I want you to comment down below. Let me know if this is something that you're even remotely interested in. Should I go down the rabbit hole of selecting different types of moss and then seeing what it takes, if anything, to keep that stuff alive? I think we could actually do a pretty cool experiment where we get a few different types of moss and we put them in aquariums with or without CO2, because I think that has a big factor in the moss's ability to stay alive, right? It makes sense. So just do me a favor and throw a comment down below. Should we do a terrestrial moss CO2 related experiment to find out once and for all if it is possible? So now let's talk more about our terrarium here and give you guys a proper update on it. I apologize if you hear too much of this AC. We're up here in the top room of the house and it is crazy hot. We just have to do it, guys. But so if you look down here, you can obviously see we have a lot of our golden white cloud minnow babies still up here. I am a little disappointed that they haven't grown a little bit faster. I was expecting them to catch up to be closer to where the adults are by now. It's been several months, but despite me feeding them every single day, tons of food, we're still not really at the point where I feel comfortable subjecting them to the outdoor temperature swings and whatnot associated with the mini ponds, and that was of course the ultimate goal. Some of these larger ones might be ready to go, guys, but there's just so many different life stages in here. I want to try and keep them together for as long as possible. This is of course my first aqua terrarium, and I find myself still enjoying this thing quite a lot. There's tons of different viewpoints to look at this thing from. It has a very nice calming sort of trickle noise that you probably can't hear with the AC on, but it's a very therapeutic piece of room art, in my opinion, and that's why I like these things so much. It's been super low maintenance for me. I come in here once every 2 weeks and do like a 50% water change on it, which is probably only like 5 gallons, but that seems to be all I really need to do to this thing. Of course, I top it off from time to time too, because it does lose a lot to evaporation. As I mentioned earlier, this is just like a volunteer weed, and that's kind of part of the fun of using the natural elements, is that you know, you get a random weed popping out. A few months ago, we had some really tall random weeds that were growing up almost all the way up to the light, and like even this guy right here is some kind of weird random weed that popped out just like a week ago. So that adds another layer of fun to it, at least for me, is that you never know what's gonna pop out of this thing. It's kind of different. It's fun. You can't even see the waterfall anymore, but there it is. It's coming out of these rocks up here, and if you want to see how we set this thing up to get a better idea of what really is going on here, I'll have a link for the setup video in the description. The AWAZA pump that we have in here, I believe it's the Optimax 250. It's been working really good for me. We have it on almost the lowest setting. There's a little adjustment bar there, so you don't have to be running it at full throttle all the time, and the pump has just been working like a champ. So we're always very appreciative of AWAZA. They are of course a channel sponsor, and they helped us to build this setup, so we appreciate them very much. And if you want to check out any of the AWAZA canister filters or their utility pumps, we'll have links for those in the description. Guys, I know it's been a long time since we've done a new tank setup or even gotten new fish, and I know that you want to see that. I want to see that too. It's just been a crazy time in the world right now, as you know, and we'll get there, I promise. I'm working on a few things right now. One of them is related to aqua terrariums, so I think we're going to do another one, and it might live downstairs. It's a little bit bigger too, so I'm going to keep pushing and trying to get these new projects out to you. I apologize that we haven't done anything really new and exciting in a while. I'm working on it. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for this little update on the aqua terrarium. The fish are doing good. The terrestrial moss is not doing good, but yeah, if you guys happen to be interested in the terrestrial moss experiment, again, let me know and we'll get on that as soon as possible. It might be hard to start it soon just because I don't have access to a lot of moss that's alive right now because it is the middle of summer, but we will make sure to earmark some time for that, and I'm looking forward to it. It would be kind of interesting to figure out if it's just CO2. If you just add CO2, do you get the moss to stay alive? I want to know. Do you want to know? Let me know. Thanks again for hanging out with me today, guys. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'm going to crank up this AC and get out of here. We'll see you next time.